Hey, 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 welcome. It is Friday, the 24th of September, 2021. This is the last second live stream. It's not exactly lunch with Aaron. I guess it is sort of. We're still on the tail end of the lunch hour. I haven't had lunch yet, but maybe you are right now. So then, of course, it would be lunch with Aaron. I was going to do I started working on a layout and I thought, what the heck? Why not just live stream it? So that's kind of what I'm here for, is to provide you guys with Bob Ross kind of drawing entertainment without the hair, obviously. Let's see, we got a few people here. Prater Sevens here, K Manifesto, Rodney. Haven't seen Rodney in a while. You know, which reminds me that Rodney's here. Let's revisit real quickly Rodney's news contribution to this show. That's right. That's Rodney Ulibarri dug that up, that breaking news that the Wraith of God actually is haunting people's homes at this point, which, hey, any publicity is good publicity, right? So anyway, Rodney, thanks for joining us. Thank you for contributing to the show. Aaron Louvier is here. He says, fellow Aarons unite. And I think that's a good sentiment. I like that. Party on, Aaron. Party on chat. Trusty Sidekick is here. Randy Howell, who I believe is up in Canada, says, thank God it's Friday. Got home before the downpour. Excellent. It's always good to be out of the rain. Excuse me, Bill Maxwell with his very prominent Captain America shield is joining us. Victor Thomas is here. Eric Boyd. So we have a full house, at least a dozen people, and that's according to my eyeball up here. We had a baker's dozen watching the show, but now we're at 14, so we've surpassed that. So I hope most of you saw that are contributing to the Wraith of God campaign, that you went to the homepage of the campaign and saw the colored version of the Esther card, which everybody gets. Everybody gets the Esther card. Now the Wraith of God card, that's a little bit harder to get because you would have had to sign up early to get that one. But I will have some extras that I will, for those people that are like, card hounds and have to have it. I'll have some extras that I'll be selling. And it'll learn you the next time to sign up early, so you get the free stuff. But one of the other free things that everybody that signs up or backs the campaign, not just signs up, but actually buys a book, supports the campaign, you're going to get a limited edition print that's kind of a preview of the next Wraith story. And I did a layout of that on a show before, but I wasn't really as satisfied with it as I would have liked to be, so we're doing it again. And whoever bought I had a perk on there for buying the original layouts, all the layouts that I do for the book. So whoever got that is probably really excited that I continue to do more and more layouts that are just going to go right into his house at the end of this. Christopher Blaylock, fine artist here. I haven't seen him in a while. Leg Kick is here because, well, Leg Kick is always here. D. Jones. He says, howdy, Lopresti's. Only one? Oh, Loprestites. Okay, that would be everybody in the chat. Everyone liked the video. Yeah, like it even if you don't like it, right? It's just pure kindness of heart, right? I do the best I can, so yeah, I should get an A for effort anyway. And so let's do a public service announcement before I forget. Boy, that Frankenstein's going to be even more apropos as we get into October and Monster Month. I would like to do what Graham Nolan's doing, is his 31 days of monsters or whatever. I would love to do that, but since he's already doing it, it's kind of stupid for me to do it too. I would just be stealing his ideas. But I'm a big monster movie fan, and I might have to do something like my top 10 horror films or monster films or something. I should do that for October. I will do that for October, and then Facebook will shut me down for copyright infringement, and YouTube will flag me, and it'll be good fun for everybody. Alrighty, so AJ Tom's here, says happy Friday, Aaron. Thank you. AJ, ripped me really good at the end of our last live stream a couple days ago, and I didn't see it until after I'd already ended the broadcast. So AJ, this is for you from last live stream. I don't even remember what the comment was, but I remember I laughing, going, wow, he really got me on that one. So revenge is a dish, of course, best served cold, and it is very cold in space. Oh, cue the dog. They gave that NECA Frankenstein figure that same facial expression. I looked at those. Maybe I was looking at the wrong ones, because the ones I saw didn't do it for me. But maybe there's so many, when you pull up some image like that on Google or GoDuckGo or whatever, like a million things come up, and none of them are what they're supposed to be. So I wasn't sure if I was actually looking at the proper figures or not. Pro Hawk Williams is in the house. David will be, I don't know if he knows this or not, but he'll be joining me Sunday for the Sunday show as we do round 5 of competitive drawing. So I'm just making that announcement right now, because I did talk to David about that, and I thought he said he was up for it. So, but I haven't talked to him in over a week about that. So that's your reminder, David. You get to come on the show Sunday and draw. See, there we go. Dogs. It's like 101 Dalmatians, right? Where they have at night the dogs all bark, and they have the whatever it was called, the dog watch, or the night dog watch, or something like that. Yeah, I know the new one that just came out, but I don't know. Like 20 different figures came up when I typed in NECA Frankenstein figures. So I'll find it eventually when I'm motivated enough. Okay. I agree. Google's the devil. It just happens to come up, though, a lot. The Evening Howl, is that what it was called? All right. I do have my camera open and do have it ready for action, so let's go to it. Show you what. Yeah, I'm still drawing on my lap because I haven't got a new table yet to put, that I keep promising to do, and I haven't done it yet. Shelly keeps looking, though, on the internet. She keeps finding stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I'll look at it, and then I never do. It's sad. All right, this I'm looking for 0.8. Okay, so this is going to be similar to what we saw before, but the Wraith placement is going to be different. Not the placement, but the pose. Now, this is going to be a painting, and I think I'm going to go all in, do an oil painting. I haven't done one in so long. It'll give me an excuse to do an oil painting, and it'll be really cool. Unless I, totally screw it up, and then of course I'll redo it as maybe an acrylic or a watercolor. Oh, for crying out loud! Do I have to go heavy black just so we can see this? Any of you guys see, all right, that is simply not going to cut it. That's better. Any of you guys see Shadow of the Vampire with Willem Dafoe? It's sort of like a fictional making of the original silent Nosferatu, where they sort of, the premise was that Max Schreck, the actor who played Nosferatu actually really was a vampire. It's kind of one of those, what would you call it, an art house sort of small budget film, but although it had some, John Malkovich was in it. He played F.W. Murnau, the director. Willem Dafoe, of course, was Nosferatu, and Cary Elwes, from Princess Bride, he was in it. It's actually a pretty cool movie. Yes, Defoe got nominated for Academy Award for Best Actor. So there you go. Demonized says, yes, it's such a fun movie. What did he say? I'll eat him later. Yeah. There was some really good scenes in that movie. Yes, that's what he said, and that's why he got cannonballed. And because he had the audacity to post it again, you're going to get cannonballed again. Now, I assume you guys have also, those of you who are inclined to be Nosferatu type fans would have seen also the Werner Herzog, Klaus Kinski version of Nosferatu, which is like right around 1981, 82, somewhere in that neighborhood. You want to talk about Klaus Kinski's like a creepy looking dude anyway. But man, he was a creepy looking Count Orlok. Herzog's movies are usually so weird to begin with. So again, this isn't necessarily the finished product, but it's a second stage layout, shall we say. I'm already thinking about slightly altering the angle on Nosferatu, although I may not. I felt like the position of the Wraith on the last layout was not very interesting. And I knew it wasn't. I was just kind of like filling him in there to kind of take up space. I sort of figured out the layout. I also, some of you guys urged me, as well as Billy Tucci did, that to get some gun replicas, so I could actually, instead of just looking at two-dimensional pictures, I could actually get some guns and move them around, and I could get better, more accurate shots of the guns that these guys are going to be using in this, since it is a Western. And so I found several sites where the guns, they weren't, less than $100 a piece. So I'm going to get a couple of guns. In fact, I'm going to order those today. Now that they don't fire, because the ones that actually, the replicas that actually are guns that fire are, over $1,000. But I don't need one that fires. I just need one that looks real. And so I'm going to get some of those and for my gunshots. And there's plenty of them in this book. So that'll come in pretty darn handy. So what I'm going to do is, as I'm laying pages out, I'm not going to do the finished gun work until I actually get the replicas, so I can double check and make sure everything's consistent. And I might get a couple. You start looking at that stuff and go, oh, that's kind of fun. So it reminds you when you were a little kid and you used to get those Western gun sets, right, for Christmas or whatever. Some of you guys are probably not old enough to actually ever got any of those, but I am old enough that I did get those when I was a kid, and they were awesome. I think I pointed out on a recent live stream that I actually filled up all the black markers. I was quite pleased with myself because I made very little mess, which is, it's a miracle for me. And I hope you guys saw, I posted on social media, but I have not posted it on the campaign page yet. The fairly detailed layout for Wraith of God page 4. So that's up on my Facebook page, my Twitter page. It's not on the campaign page yet because I think I'm going to wait until I get it inked before I put it up there on the campaign page. But yeah, I'm starting to work actually on the book again, and it's pretty exciting. I'm very thrilled to be, you sit there and go, wow, this is a project I've had in mind to do for really over 20 years. I'm finally getting to do it. And that's pretty exciting. And hopefully it is for you guys too, that actually getting, you're starting to look at the independent market a little bit, and you're starting to see that there's some real talent doing their own stuff. So you're getting like grade A comic book work in these independent markets, where largely independent markets used to be mostly for new people trying to break in, as a stepping stone to get to Marvel or DC. Now you have people leaving Marvel and DC for a good reason, a lot of times, and doing really nice professional work in the independent market. So I think it really is going to change, comics going forward. I think I saw Carrie Nord is doing some sort of fantasy thing over on Kickstarter with, it's a publisher is actually doing the thing, running the Kickstarter. It's not Carrie just doing it himself, but looks pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that out there for you guys to choose from. And that's why I'm thankful that you've chosen Wraith of God. And hopefully you'll be able to back some other ones as well. Jeff Potts showed up. How about that? Joe Bernardo's back, saying aloha from Vegas. What do we got here? Prater says, I may have already said this, but recently someone posted a live stream about an airsoft version of the old Winchester repeater rifle. I looked it up and it looked very cool. I love one myself. Yes, I did see that. The interesting thing is you can get like from these websites, and there's several of them. There's like 5 or 6 of them that just came right up that do replica, Western type guns, and they had like old rifles and Tons of handguns. You can get the holster and stuff. I'm not going to do that because, you know, I don't need the holster for reference. I can just look at photographic reference for that. But I am going to get a couple of the guns. And they have this one that like a double-barreled, kind of looking like a shotgun, but it's more of a handgun. It's about, where's my hands at? There we are. Okay, you know, it's like about that long. I thought that's kind of cool. Because I have a scene in the book where Esther has a shotgun and I thought, wouldn't it be cooler if she had one of those short ones rather than a big old long? So I don't know. I'm trying to decide. It's like you look at those things and they're all so cool. You're kind of like, I want every one of them, but it's like, okay, I'm not going to buy 20 replica guns here. So I'm going to make that tough decision today and just get a couple that I actually really am probably going to need. Okay, this rough really isn't all that different than the one that I did before, other than the position of the Wraith here, kind of looking up at Nosferatu, which is better, a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more motion in there. So you can kind of see what's going on there. Nosferatu, as I'm looking at this, looks a little static to me, so I may alter him a little bit to get a little bit more dramatic movement out of him. But again, especially if you're doing an illustration or a drawing for a painting, you're going to go through several different sort of incarnations of sketches before you finally decide on something that you're like, okay, that's exactly what I want to do. So it's all part of the process. Count Orlok it is, yes. Tiny baby sloth Da says Count Orlok, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely correct in that, Randy. In fact, let's go take a look as I vacate the premises for a second. Exactly what he's talking about. Yep. I'm not going to cannonball you, Randy, because here's what he's talking about. So he has two guns, right? So this is one gun belt, and that's the other gun belt right there. So his holster would be down underneath in the shadow area, just like this holster would be down underneath this shadow area. This, of course, this one is strapped to his leg, where this one is freewheeling. But yeah. So they're both actually hidden underneath his overcoat. So your gotcha moment failed, Randy. Yeah, look at that. Wow, this is like a free masterclass. I should start charging. You're right. Yeah. We got motivated actually to do videos and set up. I should set up a subscription service for I gotta get my lighting better though. Because it's just like it washes out so badly when I'm using white paper. I have to get it right, exact correct angle so it shows up better. You know what I might do? Let me, it's going to get spooky in here, but this will probably help a little bit as I turn the light off. Yeah, that helps. Okay, so down here in the bottom, now let's see, I'm gonna, we've got Esther down here. If you remember, she's holding a lamp. Or actually, I think I did it the other way last time. Because, well, no, that's right, because let's just say she's right-handed, because as we know, most people are right-handed. Now the Wraith, a lot of the shots I've done of the Wraith has him shooting left-handed, but he has two guns, as we pointed out, so he would shoot either left or right-handed, and I just use whatever hand works best for the composition if he's only shooting one gun, since he has two to choose from. So I'm going to do so we'll give Esther a lantern in this hand. No, we won't. That's her right hand. I would just, okay, I want to put a hammer in this hand, or a mallet. And then over her shoulder here, we'll have a bag full of wooden stakes, because one is never enough. I'll put the lantern in this hand, which is her left hand. I mean, I suppose it doesn't really matter because she's going to have to put the lantern down, you know, to drive the stake in anyway, but okay, so yeah, she's washing out a little bit, but you can see what I've got going on here. And then we'll go ahead and put a coffin down here. And I think we will, of course, have the coffin opening. So a bit of a menace going on here, right? So maybe the hand coming up here. So let's go ahead and ink this in so we can see it better. Of course, I'm using microns mostly, although I still have some Le Pens left over that I'm getting some use out of. Sometimes I'll do, you know, roughs this detailed. Sometimes I won't. It just depends. I mean, obviously, I'm doing some of this for the benefit of you guys so you can see it. Whereas if I was just, you know, if I wasn't live streaming this or making a video out of it, I might be a little bit rougher. As long as I know what my intentions are, I can, you know, I could practically do stick figures. But again, also I know I'm going to do a painting here, so this is, I want to kind of work through this. And once I actually get the, let's see if we can do a little better lighting here. There we go. Once I get the design and everything layout figured out the way I want, I will go in and do a tonal rendering in probably just pencil, maybe marker, so I know where all my lighting is going to be and what it's going to look like. And I'll use that for a reference when I'm painting. Of course, I'll actually do a video or a live stream on that as well, so you guys can see that process. And I actually got that from James Gurney, who did the Dynatopia books. But just to have a real kind of sort of clear idea of what your lighting is, and then you do little color studies so you know color-wise what you're doing. Because when you're doing, finished color work like that for, whether it's a commercial client or your own, I guess I'm my own commercial client now since I'm working for me, but it would then allow, you don't want to go in and be experimenting with your painting, especially if you're doing oils. You want to go in there knowing what you want to do before you get there. And I've heard some people say, well, it's just like painting by numbers. Well, in a way it is, figuring out what you're going to do before you actually do it, rather than, figuring it out when you're actually doing the painting. But since you're the one actually figuring out where the color and the shadows and everything is going to go, it's not like painting by numbers, like you're using someone else's has done all the work for you and you just go in and fill in the numbers with the colors they tell you to. You're the one making all those decisions. So I don't really look at it like, taking the fun or the life out of the actual process of painting. I look at it as, the whole thing is part of the process of the painting. So we're going to put this in a cave. Now, I'm not saying my story that I would change the story. I have what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that I have this story. It's not completely written, but it's pretty much laid out. And so right now, this scene would take place in a cave where this vampire has kind of got his coffin holed up. That may change, of course. So I got to finish the Wraith of God story right now that obviously the campaign's attached to before I can start doing too much work on the next story. So we got a lantern here. So that's going to be lighting this area right here. And everything else is going to be sort of shadowed. Like that. So if I did the print like this, then I would probably put the the title here. Wraith of God up here. And then it would be whatever that, I think it's tentatively titled Blood Hunters right now. So we'll just you know, something like that. And so then everybody that signs up for the campaign, if you have already, in order to book or more, you're going to get one of these. This will be a full color print. This, of course, is just the layout for the print. And but you'll get one of these free along with the campaign. So you're going to get, here's what you get. Vic, what in the world are you even talking about? Well, in your coat pocket or tucked into your waist. That's not as dramatic as the quick draw, is it? Brooding Viking. Look at that. Good afternoon, Aaron. I'm really looking forward to this book. Thank you, Brooding Viking. I am looking forward to it too. I mean, I really am. He's already done it with one person. He didn't do a group of people yet, but he did do it with one person, I think. So, ouch! Look at that. That's a joke that should be made for art, not for me. That's just that's such disrespect. So I'll make sure we get that addressed immediately. Yes, Joe, we were talking about that earlier in the stream before you showed up. So we're way ahead of you. Oh. As Jeff trying to be funny, but Jeff, when you try to be funny, this is usually what happens. So. Yes. Yes to both of those. I'm planning on setting up an eBay store for leftovers. Like I'm going to overprint the comic a little bit so that there'll be some issues available. And those will be on my website. And I'm going to put them up on an eBay store along with the card, the Wraith of God card, the extras that I have for that. And then, you know, eventually we want to do t-shirts and things like that. So we're going to try and, you know, take baby steps here and get this stuff one step at a time. Because I've seen so many companies, small companies, fail because they just try to do too much too quickly. And I don't want that to be the situation with Empire Comics. I want it to kind of stick around. And so we're going to have to, you know, do a little bit at a time. When I feel like there's enough support or backing, then I'll do more. But it's real easy to get excited about doing stuff and then just kind of go hog wild, and you know, and then you haven't built up the fan support or the maybe the enough patrons to make the stuff work. So I think there's some real truth to that, man. John Malin would be angry you don't burn your extras. I don't know. John's, you know, I don't know John very well, but at all, but he's got I don't know. He's got a way of doing things that I don't necessarily would think are the best business decisions, but it certainly will make all of his stuff extremely collectible. So maybe he's playing that angle. But I just think, you know, if you want to grow your audience, there's going to be people that are going to miss the campaign, no matter how much I'm on YouTube or how much I'm on other people's shows, how much social media stuff I do. You're going to miss hundreds, if not thousands, of potential customers down the line. They're just not going to see it because they're not looking on social media at the right time, or they're not, you know, don't have a chance to check out your videos, or maybe aren't even aware that I have a, you know, a channel. You know, so then they come across it 6 months later and they're like, they would have backed it had they known about it, but they just didn't know about it, right? So I don't want to punish those people. I want them to have an opportunity to get the book as well. They'll have to pay more for it because you guys that backed now are getting the best price, obviously, but still, I don't know, Julie. What's Julie? Weird bug up his butt is the phrase. Julie's. Is she talking about mail in there? I don't know. Yes, David B agrees with me, right? And that's the whole name of the game. A lot of people get focused on the money that's being brought in. Well, let's give David a round of applause for agreeing with me. But that's kind of the thing, isn't it? I mean, the whole idea is you know, if you focus on the numbers, the money's obviously, again, I've said this before, is important because it pays for the project. But I've got quite a bit of money in my campaign that I've raised that's due to original art sales. Okay, it's not just book sales. And the way that you grow your audience is by book sales, right? And so it's that number of backers that becomes vitally important as you move forward, right? So we're at 13. Well, let's just take a look. Why don't we just take a look, for goodness sakes? It's my stream. I can do whatever I want. So excuse me while I type. I should have prepared, but as you all know, this is a last second live stream and I'm never prepared. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the old campaign trail, shall we? Okay, so right now we're at $96,306, which is fantastic, okay? And so we have 1,338 backers. Well, we all know that some of these backers are double backers, right? Like someone maybe bought original art, but then they bought a comic. So they're counted as, because they're two separate orders, they would count as two separate backers, okay? So how many of these are actual individual backers? It could be as low as, you know, 1,200 maybe. So basically what you then have is 1,200 individual readers. Well, boy, I'd really much rather have 1,500 individual readers or 2,000 individual readers, right? And so that's just a matter of continuing to get the word out and continuing to promote and promote and promote. Because obviously to have any longevity, not only with a single book, like Wraith of God, for example, but as me, as Empire Comics, producing more books with different characters and a combined universe of these characters, you're going to want more readership to expand, you know, the line. And so that's really, this is kind of the important number for me, is that is those backers. So we'll just keep pushing and see what happens. But let's take a quick look at what your options here are right now. Now I had to pull back on the Garbage Man trades because I ran out. We've sold about 400 of them through this campaign, which was remarkable to me. I was thinking, well, if I sell 100, I'll be happy, you know. So there's some interesting Garbage Man, which I think is cool. But if you want to get the Garbage Man trade paperback and you can't get it through the campaign because you didn't order it when I had copies available, you can still order through your local comic shop or on Amazon. You can get it, or you can wait until October before you do anything, because it doesn't come out till November. You can wait till October, and by October I'll know if I can, you know, sometime in October I'll know if I can get more copies. And what I'm offering through the campaign was signed copies. All right, if you buy it through Amazon, obviously it's not going to be signed. But anyway, right now what I've got is the three pack plus, which is all 3 covers, plus the limited edition print there, and that will only be that'll be a much lower number than this print that I'm working on, because this is a giveaway, right, for reaching a stretch goal. So you guys all will get this print. This other print, though, you won't be able to get. This is signed and numbered, so it's going to be, these will be signed, but this is going to be signed. I'm sorry. Let me scroll down to it so we can see it. This print right here, that's a special purchase print. You have to actually buy that print, and so the number of prints I make will be based on how many orders I get. So if I get 300 orders is all for it, for example, then maybe I'll print a couple extra. Maybe I'll go to 325 or something, just to have a few extra. But so this will be actually a fairly collectible piece, because it'll be very limited in its print run. But anyway, I've got so you can get all 3 covers plus the print, and all that stuff comes signed. That's the benefit of getting these packages, is the books come signed. If you buy them individually, they don't come signed. So it depends on if signatures are important to you or not. Some people they are, some people they aren't. But you can choose all 3 covers. If you just want to get one comic, which is totally fine, or graphic novel, it's more than a comic, it's a graphic novel. You can order any 3 of those covers you want. And then we've also got the Wraith of God Cover A Sketchbook Ash Can combo, where you can get all the roughs, or all the best roughs that I'm doing for this series will be in this ash can, and you'll get it along with a comic, or you can actually add the ash can on as a separate, just an add-on purchase. And then we've got this the Lopresti Power Pack. Now this is not the same as the Ultimate Lopresti Power Pack, which we had earlier, which had the Garbage Man trade paperback in it, and also had the Power Cube trade paperback in it. I'm out of both, so I can't keep doing that. The Power Cubed is more problematic because that was printed about 5 years ago, and I was able to get a couple cases from the printer, from the publisher, but they don't have any left. So the 2 cases, the 100 copies that I was able to buy from them, is probably pretty much it, and that they're not going to go to a site. And the dog barks. Excuse me. My dog has a hearing problem. He hears stuff that isn't there. So anyway, I'll just try and talk louder than the dog. So the new Power Pack has a couple of older sketchbooks in it, as well as my new hardcover sketchbook, and it has the ash can, the Roughs ash can in it, where the previous Ultimate Power Pack had the 2 trade paperbacks, which are no longer available because I've sold out of them. But like I said, if I can get more Garbage Man, I will, and then I'll adjust stuff, or at least put the Garbage Man thing as an add-on. I don't know if I'm going to create a whole nother tier, because it's such a pain in the butt to do that. So anyway, but those are the things that are available on this campaign. And again, those are the 3 covers. That's the regular, the retro. Oh my gosh, I'm going to kill that dog. And the Esther cover. And as you can imagine, if you're curious, if you're a collector about such things, you've got this cover, the A cover, is probably going to be, in terms of numbers, are going to be 3 to 1. Then this one is the second most ordered, and this will be the limited. And that's just based on orders. It's not based on anything I'm doing, because I will print these to order with a little bit extra on them. So, and then we see the 3 pages, the interiors. That's the black and white that we saw earlier, but here's the colored version. So these are the first 3 pages of the book. There's the Esther card. Everybody gets one of those. Even if you just buy 1 book, you get this card. That, of course, is the print we already looked at. And then this is the early sign-up Wraith of God card that only people that early signed up will get for free. And then a few of these will probably be available for purchase after the fact. So anyway, that is that. So that's my that's my sales pitch. AJ Tom's got to get in the car and drive. So David B, the other reason you want to have extra of old campaigns is so you can sell them on eBay when interest is high. When your new campaign, people don't want to wait a year if they just find you. That's exactly right. And so, you know, the next campaign, which will have another Wraith of God story in it, but it won't be it won't just be an exclusive Wraith of God comic. It'll have, as I'm planning right now, there'll be Garbage Man story, and there'll also be a Kit Carter story. But if you want to get the first Wraith, you know, I'm overprinting so that I'll have some copies available at that point too. Julie says, I understand the concept of a limited first edition / cover, but the difference between 4,000 sold in a campaign, assuming people buy multiples, if I sell 4,000 and a 5,000 print run is minuscule. No, you're right. But at some point, you have to take into the economics of the situation and say, okay, there's 350 million potential customers, which really isn't true because there may be 350 million people in the country, but not every one of them is going to be a comic book reader or care about comic books, right? So really, you probably, if you know, what is there, maybe a few 100,000 potential actual comic book readers that you can target. But I can't just, if I print, let's say my print run ends up being 2,500 copies. If I print 5,000 copies, I'll have those 2,500 till I die of old age, those extra 2,500. So, and you have to outlay that money, right? So it's like, how long do I have to sit on that money before I see a return on it when someone actually buys those comics and takes the inventory off my hands? It's kind of like I did with my hardcover sketchbook, Raw Imagination, which I don't have a copy in front of me or I'd plug it. But I can do this because I got it someplace. It's right there. Okay. So this, for example, I didn't have any orders on this book. I simply went to the printer and I published up. I said, I'm going to do a limited edition run of 750 copies. And so I printed them up, right? And so that's all money out the door. Just, I'm in debt at this point, hoping that I can sell them. Well, I have sold enough that I've actually broken even and got ahead on the book. This book is also available through the Wraith of God campaign. But you have to, you know, what are your resources? How much can you invest printing ahead, hoping that you'll sell? And when you don't have a really good idea how many you're going to sell beyond what what your original orders are, it's a hard guess. I mean, everybody pretty much prints 20% over, you know, that's sort of an industry standard. And but eventually, if you sell enough of them, you're going to have to go to a second printing, right? Or decide if you want to go to second printing. Of course, in this market, it's just smarter, I think, to get enough material together and then just do a trade paperback, right? So you're reprinting it not as a second printing of the comic, but of all the Wraith of God material, for example, in a single trade paperback. And but yes, okay, I see. Well, thank you, Randy. It's a good number. I'm very pleased with it. I am in no way complaining. I'm very thankful for you guys that have not only backed the campaign, but have pushed it on social media to get other people aware of it. And it's really had strong support, and I'm, you know, thrilled to death about that. But like I said, I think the ultimate goal is you want to get as many readers as you possibly can. And so that's, you know, we got 10 days left, and hopefully we can get, I'd love to see that number get up to even 1,400, because that'd be 70 more backers in 10 days. But, you know, if we get it up to 1,500, that would be really amazing. So. 500, yeah, more backers, and you'll match the year of the story. Yep. There you go. Eric the Guapo says he promises you'll buy at least one of those copies. That's all I want, man. Just buy one. Well, actually, I want you to buy all 3 covers. That's why I did them. It's, you know, it's obviously a marketing ploy on my part, but just, you know, that's what I want. I want readers. I want people out there that are going to buy it and read it and enjoy it. And but I also know that there's collectors out there like me. I'm a collector, big time collector. So if I was actually buying this, I would get all 3 covers. That's just, and I'd get them signed because that's the kind of nerd that I am. But anyway, I think we're doing well, and again, it's as much to your guys' credit as anybody's for getting the word out there. But anyway, let's take a look at this real quickly here before I wrap up. So this actually is a better lighting. You can see everything pretty well. But I think even as I look at this, in fact, let me do this real quick since I've got you guys here. And again, whoever bought the roughs is going to be very pleased because I keep creating more and more that go into this. So look at this real quick. I just keep thinking that, and sometimes it's not a bad thing, but sometimes I just think that I want everything to be so dynamic. And I know you can't see anything. Just hang on a second. I'll get the. Okay. So I keep thinking that if I maybe, let's get some, for crying out loud, man. Got the worst. Okay. I want everything to be like super dynamic and have lots of movement or energy, or however you would like to phrase that. So I keep thinking if I did, it'd be harder than heck to find a picture of Max Schreck from this angle, though. I do think I'm going to make the vampire look just like Max Schreck. Okay, so then you get his claw, his hand down here, right? And maybe throw some shadow, low lighting. Okay, so something like that, right? Okay, so then we take this, right? Then we stick this head up here. So let's see if I did like this. Right? Like that. Actually, I could also see, this is what I mean. There's gonna be a few incarnations of this. Because I could do more of a profile shot like I had, just do it at a lower angle. Okay. This is just a quick, for instance, kind of shot, but so we have something like that. Maybe that would work better. Okay, so then we take this, and then maybe we go with that angle. See, if it's a little more expressive, you got a little bit more dynamic in there, rather than just this straight-on profile. So anyway, there'll be a lot of that going on, trying to figure that stuff out. Okay, let me address the audience, and then we'll probably move on to bigger and better things. Aaron, do you think the real work done on paper feels more worth your money than the digital NFTs? I am too old-fashioned. I mean, I would do an NFT because, if someone said, hey, you do this, you might make $20,000 on it or something, I'd say, duh, yeah, I'll do it. But I don't really get it. I don't like living in this digital world. I prefer, original art that I can hang on my wall, as opposed to something I can hang on my computer screen. I don't really get, because to me it doesn't really exist. I mean, it's there, you can see it, but it's not tangible, and so that drives me nuts. And again, that's just me being old-fashioned and not really getting with the times, I suppose. Actually, that would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? The lenticular have the head. Oh, I wonder how expensive those are. That's disgusting. All my comics are Comics Code approved. Yeah, see, I mean, you get what I'm saying. There's clearly there's a difference in the dynamics of, and it just makes for a more interesting picture. Also, did you know that Charlton characters are public domain? Blue Beetle, Ted Cord, Captain Atom, Black Cone. Well, now wait a minute, Joe. I don't think that's true. I think DC owns the copyright on those characters now. But I do know that there are characters like, for example, there's some Golden Age characters like the Black Terror. Those of you familiar with that character, I almost thought about doing a crowd-funded book, excuse me, on the Black Terror. But there are characters out there, yeah, that are public domain. Well, see, that's the thing I'm concerned about, is they have to be fakeable in 10 years. I mean, there's already people doing knockoffs of them, so it's kind of like, yeah, there's like some sort of code chain or something you have to like keep track of to know if it's real or legit and stuff. It just seems very, I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know if there's, getting back to Joe's thing on the Charlton characters, I don't know if they're like DC has their own versions, but I could do my version of Blue Beetle. I don't know. I don't really understand that. But it seems like DC would sue you to oblivion, and then, whether they were right or not, you'd still lose because you would be out of money and they wouldn't be. Black Condor, the Peter Cabin Thunderbolt, Nightshade, Judo Master. Well, and a lot of those characters nobody cares about either, or doesn't care enough about. That's the other thing. Let me bring up one other thing since we're talking about it. Okay, let me share the screen with you, because I'm a sharing guy. Okay, there's the Black Terror, beating up some Nazis. But you can see the potential here with, make him a little bit of a darker character, more mysterious. Some people, I want to say, I know Dan Brereton did one. I don't know if it was Chaikin that wrote it. I can't remember. But yeah, so that's a character that is, and I know there's probably several other, but if I wanted to do a Black Terror comic, I could do it. But again, it all comes down to, what do you want to do? Is the Black Terror, I mean, yeah, maybe he's more known in hardcore comic book circles than, say, Wraith of God, but would it be any more successful? I don't know. But you do look at some of those old things and go, God, wouldn't that be cool? Like I'm going to use Uncle Sam in my my Empire comics universe, because Uncle Sam obviously is not a trademarkable character. He's been public domain for ages. So, and I love Uncle Sam. It was like one of my favorite comics when I was a collector as a kid, because obviously, regardless of what you may think, I was not alive in the 40s. But looking back in the Golden Age, like Uncle Sam was one of my favorite Golden Age characters, and so I wouldn't mind bringing him in my own version, of course, in the proper moment. So who knows? We'll see. You're talking Thundar. You're not talking about Thundar the Barbarian, right? You're talking about something else. Le Cordon Bleu beetle. That's very good. Actually, I'm gonna give you one of these for that. Got a laugh out of that. Well, I've already been, so it's kind of like it would just, at this point, it would just be for fun. Um, I'd get David Williams to draw it, and then what could they possibly say then? I don't know if Dynamite did. They may have, but I know, like I said, I know Dan Brereton did one. I think Chaykin wrote it. This was like years ago for like, was it First Comics or something, like in the 90s or something? Is First even still around? Um, but yeah, Dan Brereton did a painted one that was pretty cool. Make your own. Call it Black Blue Beetle Condor. Yeah, not quite up to your general standards there, Jeff. Interesting. That is very interesting. Huh. I wonder how DC's work. I mean, so basically, if they actually are public domain, as you're suggesting here, or the Google's suggesting, then DC is using those characters because they're public domain, but that wouldn't keep anybody else from using them either. Although DC could then sue and say, well, you're using our version of this character, so therefore we're suing you. So it's interesting. No, I'm a big fan of comics being accessible to all ages, and I don't mean that in the sense of talking down to people, but like when I was reading comics in the 70s and stuff, and they had adult themes and stuff in those books, but they're all presented in more of what should we say, a culturally acceptable standard at that point in time. And so it was like innuendo and stuff that happened off camera. The violence wasn't gratuitous, those type of things. I think you can do, sort of Hitchcockian, where there's always a lot of implied violence, but it's not really graphic. Even something as horrific as the shower scene in Psycho, we really didn't see much. And I just think there's ways to do that where you don't have to limit your audience to just an adult audience and just say, well, if you're 18 or older, you can read Wraith of God, but if you're younger, it's really going to be gross and gory and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be like a Hammer film or something, like you said, with the blood splattering all over the place. That's just I would rather keep it so that it's more accessible to more people. DC, oh, wait a minute, this is interesting. DC owns the copyright and names of the Charlton characters. It gets a bit muddled. You can use the characters, but you can't use the names. Interesting. How about that? Yeah, their version is trademarked. Okay. So yeah, so you'd go down that road. If you tried to do Blue Beetle, well, like I said, you couldn't use the Blue Beetle, right? You could maybe do the visual. They'd still sue you, and they'd still win. Or even if they didn't win, they'd just bleed you dry, and you'd lose anyway. So it's not even worth going down that road. I remember having that conversation with a lawyer back in the 90s when I was forming Studio Saurus in here in Portland, our big commercial art studio or comic book art studio. And we were talking about copyright and different things like that. And he said, look, you can do whatever you want with your copyright. He said, but copyright is owned by whoever has the most money. And he goes, and that's how it works. You could be completely in the right. You could own the copyright, but this other company who has 10 times more money than you do could sue you to death keep you in court until you just are bankrupt and can't defend yourself anymore. And then you lose, even if you're in the right. And so, it's not fair, but that's life. If you look at the original Captain Marvel, Shazam, DC were constantly suing Fawcett Comics all through the 40s and into the 50s, saying that Captain Marvel was infringing on Superman, which it clearly wasn't. But because Captain Marvel was outselling Superman, they were pissed and they didn't want the competition. So eventually they sued Fawcett, was constantly dealing with lawsuits from DC. But then when comic sales waned and the superhero books waned in the 50s and everything, like they just, they quit publishing it. So it just wasn't worth the hassle anymore. And then, of course, DC swoops in and takes the copyright to Shazam. and using the character that is clearly a ripoff of Superman, but it isn't anymore because now DC owns it, so therefore it's a completely different character, which it always was to begin with. But that's a perfect example of DC having more money than Fawcett and just continuing to beat them down with lawsuits until they finally just caved and said, well, that's not worth it for us to pursue this anymore. He'll never succeed. Ever succeed. The best he can hope for is to get a publicity stink and then get some settlement money so that it'll go away, so Marvel doesn't have to deal with the bad PR. Prater's on the way out the door. Thanks, Prater, for joining us. Appreciate it. No, I totally agree. I never liked the idea of like DC. Marvel did it a little bit with Marvel Adventures, which I did some covers for back in the day. But DC did it with their, young people's line where they're just basically doing kids comics or something. And it's kind of like, don't treat an 11-year-old like they're 11. Let them feel like they're an adult. Just make sure that the content is something that is not going to scar them, or the content's presented in a way that is accessible to them without being gratuitous. It's a simple formula and one that and comics all used to be like that straight across the board until, Frank Miller and Alan Moore started pushing the boundaries on that stuff. And then they started doing, stuff that had to be separated in Vertigo or, and then I remember Miller back in the day just outraged because they wanted to label the comics, PG and PG-13, whatever, and just thought that was like censorship, which I think is BS. It's not censorship to let the audience know what the content of the book is before they buy it, so they can make an informed decision about who they want. A parent can make an informed decision about the material they want their kids reading or not. So I don't really have a problem with that at all. I know a lot of creators do, but I just think that there's nothing wrong with a rating system so that the audience knows content-wise what they're getting into before they get into it. And I just think that I think you can make really good comic books for all ages without compromising. You just have to be clever in how you do it. So. Look at that. Eric Boyd says there's more than 3,000 comic book characters that are public domain that are not contentious like the Charlton ones. I didn't know there was that many, but that's interesting. I have to go check that out. Well, there you go. But the thing is, Blue Beetle's not that popular at DC, So it's like, if you do an independent Blue Beetle comic, it's kind of like, is anybody going to care? That's the other side to it. Well, you may be right in that. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the Marvel movies going forward, if they're as popular, if they start to wane in popularity. And maybe we're seeing that again, because we saw that in the 70s, right after the Silver Age, where you had that superhero boom in the 60s, and that was all the rage. And then in the 70s, no one really cared about superheroes anymore. And so you started seeing sword and sorcery like Conan and King Cole and Beowulf and Claw the Unconquered and all these kind of things coming out from Marvel and DC, along with all their horror books, right? Frankenstein Monster, Werewolf by Night, Ghost Rider, Swamp Thing, Man Thing. They had the magazines. What was it? What was the zombies? It wasn't Zombies Unleashed. It was Monsters Unleashed. And all that kind of stuff, which, creepy and eerie really became popular there in that early to mid 70s. So maybe we're seeing that again, where some diverse content like Behind Me, Kid Carter and Garbage Man and Wraith of God, which is, a Western superhero monster comic, sort of, has all those genres mashed in, but you're seeing maybe interest in something that's a little bit different. It still can bring you that comic book dynamic, but isn't necessarily, superheroes in the traditional sense. So we shall see. There you go. Eric Boyd is informing us that the site Public Domain Superheroes has a lot of info. So does Comic Book Plus. All right, I will check those out, man. All right, well, that's all I got for you today. I just wanted to kind of do those roughs there, kind of give you an idea of what I was working on, let you know that the wheels are always moving forward with Wraith of God. I'm not just always doing publicity, although that's mostly what I'm doing, but I am drawing when I get the chance. And when I do, I want to share it with you. So thank you all. Excuse me for rubbing my nose, but thank you all. And what's today? Friday. So our local theater here, those of you in small town America may have a local theater that plays second run films and stuff. He's got a double feature, Escape from New York and the original King Kong. Are you kidding me? I'm going to find my way there this weekend to see probably both of those. But anyway, I'll be back for the Sunday night show, the big show with Shelley and Shelley Showtime, and then we'll enter the final week of the Wraith of God campaign, where I'll probably be live streaming like crazy and just push. So anyway, thanks for joining me. It's been a blast as always, and look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thank you for the support. Appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you haven't done it. Go visit Wraith of God if you haven't done that. And